Well, good evening. Welcome to devotions on Thursday evening from the kitchen table of Grover Hill Zion United Methodist Church. We're glad you're viewing this evening, and we hope you find this message interesting. We've been talking now for many weeks about the story behind some of the great hymns of the church and why they were written, and some of those great hymns that were written are still used in the church today, or in many congregations as well. The hymn we're talking about tonight is When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. It's in our United Methodist hymnal. It's a great song. It's been a great song for many, many years, and it helps us have a picture of what Christ did for us on that cross. Everything we go through, when we look at the cross and we survey the wondrous cross, it helps us to put our lives in perspective when we look at that cross. This hymn, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, was written by Isaac Watt. Now, Isaac Watt was born on July the 17th, 1674, and he died on the 25th of November, 1748. He was an English minister. He was of the Dissent denomination, if you will. He was also a nonconformist, or part of the nonconformist movement as well in England. Understand, when you hear me say dissent or nonconformist, it was against the Anglican Church. It was a government. The Anglican Church, or the Church of England, was a church that was controlled by the government. So if you were a nonconformist, you couldn't even hold any government offices because the government controlled the church. Well, he was a hymn writer and a popular theologian, and he wrote many of the hymns. He was given credit for writing more than 750 hymns, and he's recognized as the godfather of English hymnody. And as I said a moment ago, many of his hymns remain in use even today. Especially, this is perhaps one of his greatest. Watts was born in Southampton in England, and he was brought up in the home of a committed religious nonconformist. His father's name was also Isaac Watts, and he had been incarcerated for his views that differed from the Church of England. Now, young Watts had a classical education, and he learned Latin and Greek and Hebrew. So he was pretty well versed, very well versed, in fact, we would say. He displayed a propensity for rhyme at a very early age. It's said that he was once asked why he had his eyes open during the prayers, to which he responded, "A little mouse, for want of stairs, ran up the rope to say his prayers." And it's said that he received corporal punishment for this, to which he cried, "Oh, Father, pity take, and I will no more verses make." I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what the story goes. Now, Watts, because he was a dissenter or a nonconformist, could not attend Oxford or Cambridge, which were the premier universities in his day. These universities were restricted, I think I mentioned a moment ago, to the Anglicans and to the government's positions. And so he went to the Dissenting Academy at Stoke Newington in 1690, and he remained right around that village for the rest of his life. And today that village is incorporated into inner London. Well, as he wrote this hymn, "When I Survey the Wonders of the Cross," he was preparing for a communion service in 1707. And so he wrote these deeply moving words. And it's a very personal expression of gratitude for the amazing love that the death of Christ on the cross revealed. The hymn first appeared that same year in Watts's outstanding collection of hymns and spiritual songs. The hymn was originally titled "Crucifixion to the World by the Cross of Christ," and noted theologian Matthew Arnold called this the greatest hymn in the English language. In Watts's day, texts such as this were based only on personal feelings, and they were termed hymns of human composure, and were oftentimes very controversial, since almost all the congregational singing at this time consisted of repetitions of the Psalms. They would use metered psalms, and then the song leader then would sing out the first verse of the psalm, to which the congregation would sing it back. And so if there was a thought there, they tried to make the psalms or the songs match the theme of the minister's sermon. And so if there was a thought there that they wanted to highlight, by only singing part of a verse, the thought got distorted, if it was made at all, the way they sang that hymn. So they chanted the Psalms, and Watts thought that was rather boring. So the unique thoughts presented by Watts in these lines certainly, as they do for us, pointed the 18th century Christians to a view of the dying Savior in a vivid and memorable way that led them to a deeper worship experience. And as I say, it does that for us today as well. Perhaps you can hear it in the background. Well, Watts also he was a minister, became a minister, but he also was considered to be, or would be considered to be, a child prodigy today. He showed an unusual talent at an early age. He learned Latin by the age of 5, Greek by the age of 9, French at the age of 11, and Hebrew at the age of 12. Can you imagine that? Well, as he grew up, he became increasingly disturbed by the uninspiring psalm singing of the English churches. He commented, "The singing of God's praise is the part of worship most closely related to heaven, but its performance among us is the worst on earth." Throughout his life, Watts, as I say, he's given credit for writing more than 750 hymns, and is known today as the father of English hymnody. His hymns, unlike the singing of the day, were strong and triumphant statements of the Christian faith. And yet none of them, it said, has ever equaled the colorful imagery and the genuine devotion of this very, very stirring and yet magnificent hymn text. If you get a chance, look it up, listen to it, and let the words, let the text speak to you, even after more than 300 years. Very powerful song. Well, God bless you and have a blessed week.